All right, and so we are live. What is going on, beautiful people? Welcome back for another powerful conversation, which I've just called Ascending Masters because it just seems very fitting and suiting for these kinds of conversations. And today, once again, we have very special guests who we had last time, I believe a couple weeks ago on the channel, who are Shekinah and Sananda. All you guys have been messaging me, asking me when I'm going to be having them back and when we're going to be doing it again, because I know you guys got so much out of our conversation last time. You know, it was so heart expanding. There was tears. There was just an immense amount of wisdom and love. Love, I would say, is the most dominant feeling and texture that was present in that space. And I can guarantee will be present again. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with Shekinah and Sananda, who perhaps didn't see the last live stream, to share briefly, Shekinah and Sananda are quite simply embodiments of love, magic, and wisdom. They have some of the most purest hearts I've ever encountered, experienced, and felt. And I can tell you that both from knowing them through live stream and doing interviews and having the opportunity to know them as people. And you know, they've been nothing but a light in my life and extremely blissful. And it is extremely, what's the word I'm looking for? It is an extreme gift to have them here once again in this moment. And we're going to be diving into all kinds of new things as inspiration lead us. And so it is with my highest pleasure and passion that I get to introduce to you guys Shekinah and Sananda. Welcome.
Thank you so much, beloved David.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you so much. Every time you introduce us, it's a new magical experience and a wonderful way at which you articulate such beauty and grace. And so, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You know, I'd love to begin this with a bit of a story, which I'm sure will spark conversation, where yesterday I was doing my morning meditation. And as I was meditating, I was just exploring new ways of meditating, I guess you could say. And one of the things that I started to do was as I was taking my inhale, as I was doing my breath in, I was saying to myself, love all. And as I was exhaling, I was saying, serve all.
Yes.
And it just brought such just this beautiful experience of bliss and an attunement to that kind of energy. And it was absolutely inspired by you guys, because I've heard you speak about how that's, I guess, kind of your mantra or your motto. It's on your website, on your Twin Ray website, where you say love all, serve all. And so I'd love to hear what that means to you.
What a beautiful question. Would you like to express more?
I think you would love to express to now.
So to love all, serve all. Yeah, it's our life purpose. It's our expression of art, which is our life. And it to understand such a beautiful concept, you first have to know what love is, because you can't really serve unless you know what really love is.
You can't serve love unless you know what love is.
Exactly. And so in order to unpack this, we can understand it from two different levels. There's the conditional love. And this is more associated with human love. It's like, I love you because you've done this for me. I love you because you do this for me. Or I love you because you're like that. Or I love you when you're like that, but I don't love you when you're like this. All these sort of conceptual conditions that the human ego and the human mind like place around love.
Or I love you, but I don't like you right now.
Yeah. So that there's that emotional love. There's that emotional expression of love, and that human connection through love, and what that means. And that's different to everybody. Love is really different to everybody. But when you start going beyond your conditioning, when you start going beyond the definition of this person, that separative model, what happens is that you start unifying and returning back to the true essence of love. And you can call it love. And what we like to say is that love is bliss made manifest. So when you're true in love, it's bliss made manifest. And so what is bliss? What is Ananda? Or what is Sananda?
Yes.
That is a state of being where you are in such harmony. You know, you're gliding. You know, when I watch my wife and I get to just witness her and her ways, she glides. She just sort of floats in and floats out, and she's just that freedom space. And that's really what that love is, that bliss. There's a freedom. There's no friction. You're not creating troubles. You're not trying to force something. You're not trying to will something, and you certainly aren't desiring anything, because you are so full and complete in your own expression. And so when you're in a space like that, it's like love for the sake of love itself. And that's love at its highest absolute form. And you can call that love God. You can call that love the universal creator or creation itself. You can call that love the divine holy mother. You can call that love whatever is in resonance with that supreme most high, whatever that really means. But that love, that beautiful expression of love, is the overflow. It's the overflow of what the universe does. It just gives and gives. It's just like the sun. You know, the sun, this is something that we say all the time.
All the time, that the sun, you know, people ask us all the time, wow, you know, maybe they might feel we're not so relatable, or maybe they might feel that, you know, what do we say? We say that the sun shines just because it shines. It doesn't need you to see it shine. It doesn't need you to watch it in order to shine. It's just going to shine. And so this is the same thing about love. And when we talk about love, and when we talk about serving love all, serve all, that's every aspect and every facet of the diamond of life. Can you look at all of the things that are occurring in this world and still love it? Can you see its perfect and its divine nature, just as a flower that blooms, blossoms, and then returns back into the soil for seeding to return and rebirth once more? Can you feel that to the point where you are so overflowing that you are emanating all the time, no matter what? We serve a world that looks like that. We serve beloveds who wish to experience that love and who want to explore that at the depths of their being through the experiential model of life and creation.
And as that unfolds, just so effortlessly, you know, what love does,
gracefully,
what love does, it starts dissolving all these self-imposed limitations, all these self-imposed walls around the conditioned self.
I like that. I don't like that.
Yeah,
this is my preference. This is not my preference.
Yeah, you know, you're a nice person, but you did this, so I don't think that you don't fit the model of what I deem nice or worthy for me to connect. All of those conditions that are on a more of a surface level, but they're not really there. They're just mind constructs. That's all they really are. And so when you're in a presence of love, love brings you into this still point of pure acceptance of what is, of what truly is, before you try to label it, before you try to judge it, before you try to project upon it. You see for what it is. And in that space, when you really are absorbed in that space, then you know God. And to truly know God is to truly love God. And to truly love God is to truly know God.
Yes.
And so when we say love all, serve all, when you are in love, you are in service to all. There is no difference. It's the way that it will express itself, because In the West, there's such a heavy conditioning about, I must do this, I must make a mark in the world,
I must be this, I must become
this, and I must make the world better. And that does come from more of a religious overtone. There's definitely a religious overtone that's backing that. And there's a purpose behind that, of course. But when you look at the Eastern model of religion or of spirituality in its most classical romantic era, when you feel into that and you understand that, that just simply doesn't exist. Because when you're in your highest state of being, which is that loving, blissful state made manifest, when you're in that state, you are the highest example. You are the highest expression of that divine. Yes. So you don't have to go and do this and do that and have to make the mark in the world and leave a great legacy so your name is never forgotten and all of this nonsense that the ego tries to self-promote itself and then remarket itself into the world when it starts becoming comfortable with a new identity. All of that just starts dissolving in the presence of love. And in the Eastern traditions, love is this expression of total oneness with the perfection that is already there. And there's not a blade of grass, there's not a leaf on a tree, there's not a cloud in the sky.
That's out of place.
That is out of place in this beautiful, beautiful play. And that's all it becomes. When you're in love, you're in play. You're just in play. Life's serious, all these hang-ups that life delivers you is because you're attached to something that you didn't get an outcome of. That's really what it is. It's so simple.
And you're attached to the emotion that is created because you didn't receive the outcome that you were waiting for.
Exactly. And so when you let go of these emotional attachments to outcomes of just desires that isn't what you really want, then you know love. And then love becomes what it was always in the beginning and it will be in the end, because in truth, you are nothing but that, yet you're pretending with all these ways that you're not that. And all we do in life, all we do in our life and our expression is wake you back up to who you are as love.
Oh, that is hands down the most beautiful expression I've heard on love ever. Thank you so much. And what I could hear people's minds asking and saying is, well, what about those who have wronged you, be it intentionally or unintentionally? Do you still love all and serve all in those scenarios? And what does love and serve look like in those scenarios?
Yes, you do. Yeah. You love them even more because they need more light. You love them even more. You pray for them even more because they are requiring, because they're in the darkness, because they are living in ignorance. They are ignoring love. They are ignoring the ever-present, ever-expansive presence that can only be the creator. You can only create through love. And so anything else is a discreation of the original action of love. Anything else.
There's a beautiful proverb and expression of, from the model, let's call it that, a model of Christianity, of Yeshua, when he was asked by a disciple, how many times should I forgive? 1, 2, 3, 7 times should I forgive? And he says, 7 times 7 is how many times you forgive. You never stop forgiving, just times it continuously. And forgiveness is this thing. If someone wrongs you, let's look at it at a practical level, because we can express the spiritual nature of, okay, it's so easy. It's so, because really when you're there, it is easy when you're there. But when you're not there, it's sort of like, but they were like this, and you keep justifying how bad they are or who that other is. So let's just break it down to a practical level for a moment. If you don't forgive someone, do you think that's going to emotionally affect them? Maybe you think it will, so that's why you're not forgiving them, because you think that it's actually going to create pain for them. But in the whole process of that, it's a double-edged sword. It's actually affecting you.
Yes, it's creating pain for you. It's creating a chain and a binding
yes.
for you, not for them.
And so when you choose forgiveness, from a very practical level, you're just letting go of something that's no longer serving you, because what you truly want maybe isn't for them to find their happiness, but it absolutely is for you to find your own happiness, even if the ego is still justifying its own narrative. It definitely wants to find its own happiness, and it's never going to find that if you go around blaming people, or you go around hanging on to problems that happened in the past.
Mm-hmm. And also, you know, the question becomes, why is this in your play? What is your lesson that you, unbeknownst to your conscious mind, decided that you needed to have this experience? What is going on inside of you, whether it's at an unconscious level, at the soul level, whatever level, that this is in your play? Because that's what you're doing. You're playing with reality. And so why is this in your reality? Is it because they need to learn something and you've decided to be the saint, to come around and say, okay, I'm ready now to be the counter role of this experience? Or do you recognize that it is in fact you that is playing with yourself in the hall of mirrors, that is saying, teach me and be my teacher, and be my teacher by being someone or doing something that is so hard to forgive, until I find that forgiveness so deep within me to realize there was nothing to forgive to begin with.
And
Wow.
that is hard to arrive at, to be honest, until you go through the whole process.
Because we are not speaking about things that are easy.
You know,
we know this.
When you arrive there, because it is, you just arrive there. It's not like, oh, I'm trying to forgive. You can't forgive it, even if you truly try. But what you can do is accept. You can accept it for what it is, not with what it did to you, or what you want to project on it, or what you're judging it as, but just accept it for what it is. When you do that, then forgiveness can happen. But you have to do it for a duration of time. Allow yourself to really let go. You just if you were squeezing your hand so tightly, and you did that for a minute, then you let go, but your hand still quite restricted. It takes time for the blood to circulate back, and for your hand to feel loose again.
Yes.
Just like when you accept something. So it might return again, and to just really test you. Are you really forgiving this? Are you really accepting it as it is? And with a different face, a different scenario. So when this happens in your life, this is the great boon when you're walking the spiritual path. You get to take personal responsibility. You get to take personal
Everyone loves personal responsibility.
And sometimes, maybe they don't.
Don't.
But when you take personal responsibility for what it is, you start self-contemplating. And what you arrive at eventually, you start putting pieces together. There's like, this person did this, and this happened for that reason. And then you realize it was all perfect. And when you arrive there, all these jigsaw pieces of the puzzle start creating a picture of realization. And you realize through that adversity, of that suffering, of that pain, whether it was this experience or that person or this partner, and all these different narratives that the mind and the story creates, you'll finally arrive at this place where, I see how I did that to myself. I see how I chose that for myself. And then all you're left with is this laugh. It's like, wow, I sure pulled one over myself.
It's an internal giggle.
It's so true, and that could be a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, especially when they haven't arrived. And which you spoke to as well, like, it's not necessarily easy, but I could definitely speak from my own experience that that's absolutely the truth, because one of the things that I always share is that, from my perspective, forgiveness is the return to innocence. It's the return to your essence. And one of the ways that I've learned forgiveness was through the teachings of Ra. And what he shares, or what he had shared, was that the simple way, not necessarily easy, but the simple way to permanently alleviate emotional baggage and suffering is through 3 simple steps, which is understand, accept, forgive. And through applying that to myself and to others, it's been the most simple, and I could even say in some cases easy way for myself to find that forgiveness, you know, because for me the understanding portion means understanding the higher purpose that it served, you know. So, you know, for example, like I was hurt by my father when I was younger, and so I carried lots of resent. And you know, when it came to the point where I realized I wanted to grow and I wanted to forgive so I could let this go for myself and I could return to my own innocence and not carry this toxicity, I had to go inside and first understand, by understanding how it made me a better person, what it taught me the importance of, what values it gave me, and literally getting to the point where I'm grateful for the pain that was caused. And only once I truly felt grateful and happy for what happened, that's when I knew I truly wholeheartedly understood, and then was more easily able to accept that whatever happened needed to happen in the way that it happened. And since that gratitude was there, my vibration was one notch higher to be able to forgive myself and to let myself know that it's okay, I didn't realize this sooner. It's okay, I didn't realize that I got all these gifts from it and I thought it was such a bad thing. And it was gifting myself with that liberation and creating more, or shifting into more unity inside myself.
That's right, beloved. You know, we always say that true forgiveness, the depths of the forgiveness is pain that never even existed. It's something you can't call back again. You can't bring it up. You cannot find it anywhere when you do a scan on yourself. And so that's when you know that the record, the complete and total record of the contextual experience of the mind at that moment when the pain occurred, and again, conceptually and conceptually, is no longer there. You cannot remember. You cannot see it.
Yep.
And so that's when you know true forgiveness. And just for a moment, also to take a look at the word forgiveness. It's the forthcomingness of giving. You are giving without expecting anything in return. You are giving of your love to yourself and thus to the other in order to come back into equilibrium state and return to that balance and to the true love of the one.
And when you offer that, when you offer that forgiveness, that forthcoming of giving, you don't expect anything in return.
Nothing.
And
that's why it's forthcoming.
What created this pain and the suffering to begin with was because you were attached to something to return. You had an expectation that wasn't delivered. You were holding on so tightly to an expectation that you wanted, and that's what's created the bind. That's created the whole process of you trying to forgive, or you needing to forgive, because in the very giving, the giving wasn't unconditional. It wasn't really coming from love. It was coming from a space of this. And even if someone did something to you, you know, even if something happened directly to you that someone did it upon you, when that happens, and you experience that, and it's like, oh my gosh, why me? Why did that happen? You know, that's very present with, I'm sure, everyone's story of life. Why me? That victim, right? That sometimes is a victim and is justified as a victim, and then they hold on to that. You know, when you experience something like that can create a division in the mind, because it's like, well,
absolutely will create a division in the mind.
And that's what happens when there's such trauma. Creates these divisions.
Yes, and then you experience life through those divisions, because then you remember, oh, well, this person did this to me, and this is a similar flag that's coming up. Well, this is betrayal here, so this must eventually be betrayal as well. And so what happens is you end up living not through the uncompartmentalized space, the part that doesn't have compartments, but you are living through that one tiny little compartment that you have created or named or labeled as, stamped as betrayal. And so that is going to actually be your experience of life.
And that's simply conditioning. That becomes your conditioning. So then you start looking for it unconsciously. You start trying to find it in somebody else. because you're basically that trauma that you've experienced, that you then put on those goggles of trauma, and the unconsciousness is literally looking for that experience. Therefore, it's attracting it.
That's right. The unconscious mind, all it wants to do is to be proven right. That is really, if you wanted to break it down into its most simple form, all it wants to do is be proven right. So it's going to seek, and it's going to look for the avenues and the people and the information by which that original wound, that original perceptual trauma can then replay itself over and over and over again, because it gets to say, see, I knew it. I knew that this is the way in which life is, or I knew this is the way in which reality plays itself out.
And you'll see that over and again with someone's story, how that story is so similar with so many different relationships they've had.
Yeah.
And when you see that for what that is, and you see that from what it is just a conditioning, whether it's an egoic condition, whether it's a social culture conditioning, whether it's a parental conditioning, whatever conditioning that has been associated in the mind, in the unconscious mind, when you look at that, you get to have that next choice of freedom, because it's sort of, oh wow, I see how that allows me to make these choices and make these associations, and then I meet these people and I have these experiences. When you can start unifying those dots together and you start seeing it as what it is, then you can resolve it. And you can resolve it, because once you understand who the person was that harmed you, or who the person was that hurt you, or where the trauma originated, when you truly understand who that person is, you arrive at yourself. You arrive at your true self. And there never was that other person. You're just playing with yourself in this life. And that does take a journey. That's a self-realized perception to hold.
Exactly.
And this is not, again, we'll say this very clearly, and we tell this to our students all the time. This is not easy. The self-realization path isn't easy, yet it's the most simplest thing. It's so simple, but it's not easy. Just as if you were to see someone that was so immersed in playing the piano. They play beautiful, beautiful expressions of the piano and songs or any musician, like a beautiful artist does, or whether it's drawing a beautiful picture, they make it look so easy. But it took years and years and years of perfecting themselves, refining themselves to be arriving at this level of mastery. And so this is the path of self-mastery. And you have to take a deep look into yourself. You have to really look deep into yourself. There's a lot of light workers and light warriors, but you have to be also a shadow walker. You have to go into your unconscious. You have to look into those aspects that you don't want other people to see. You have to go into the aspects that that are there, and it makes you so uncomfortable, but you don't want anyone else to see them. And those things, to unlock them, you have to be vulnerable. And going back to the original conversation, what is love? Love is true vulnerability, where you don't have any veils, you don't have any walls built up around you. You're transparent. You're being for the sake. And love is its own rewards. That expression of life is its own. Forgiveness is its own rewards. At the end of the ball of yarn, as you unravel it all. At the end of that ball of yarn, you realize that it all had to be, and it all had to be exactly how it was, and it was all play. It was all play. And when you go through that journey of going through that process, the easiest way that will deliver you there is compassion. And just compassion for yourself, compassion for the others. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. That beautiful expression of compassion. Okay, you've been wronged. Does that being now need to deserve to be treated in such a way for them to learn the lesson that they've hurt another? Do they need to learn that? Some conditioning will say yes, and they will, because they've got that conditioning. But when you understand this, when you really understand compassion, you're detached from the outcome of your compassion. Isn't expecting something back for it. So compassion is the same as love. It's all that there is at the end of that ball of yarn. It's all it is.
It's compassion for the sake of itself, for the sake of the essence of being able to be so full within that, again, you're giving from, your cup is so overflowing that you're giving from the saucer, and you're giving from the saucer and the saucer, because all you have is the leftover to give from. You can't possibly do anything else but want to give, but want to serve. And you do it effortlessly and gracefully without having to be in a doing space in order to do it.
No one really does anything.
No one really does anything or controls anything for that matter. It's only an illusion, a facade.
And let's speak into that word that Shekinah is just expressed illusion, you know, and if we go Eastern, it's Maya. Yeah. And what does that actually mean? What does that illusion actually mean? It means not as it seems. It's simply still, it's just not as it seems. Or not as it appears.
Right. It doesn't mean that it's not tangibly feeling real.
Yeah.
Because
it's just, but because once you unravel yourself in the process of these experiences, it wasn't what it appeared to be to begin with. That pain that was a pain or a trauma wasn't really a pain and a trauma. Once you start unwinding it, you get to the core of it. It's like, oh, there I was all the whole time. You know, it wasn't appeared like, and that's why when people look at reality, they don't see reality as it is. They see it as mind constructs. Oh, I see a tree, I see a bird, I see a table, I see a computer, I see Zoom, there's all these conditions through language, but you don't see it as it is. And when you can still the mind to the point where you can just see life as it is, not with its over complexities of that the modern era has created the conditioned ego to believe itself as individual, but when you see life as just as it is, and then you start, if you stay there long enough, you see it all as that, and then when you stay there long enough, you become one with all that, and that's just the journey. And it can take you lifetimes, infinite lifetimes. In fact, you can play with yourself for eternity, lifetime after lifetime. Or it comes a time when you just simply you don't want to create pain anymore. You don't want to have this suffering anymore. You don't choose that. And for some reason, the human conditioning just wants to create pain and pain, and then it swings back into pleasure. Yep. And then it comes back into pain. Oh, but I want this flashy thing that looks so bejeweled, and I want that new thing. And then, oh, I don't really want that. Oh, and I want this new person because I want this relationship that's going to fulfill me, and I want this person that's going to give me that what I need. And then, that person that becomes now your source of anguish. You know, so it's this ebb and flow pendulum shift, and for some reason, the mind, the mind only is choosing to see that duality. But when you wake up out of that trap, and you wake up out of that, and you are so firm in your being of just absolute conviction of God, of true love, and you're there. You don't play that melodrama anymore. You can't engage into that. It's sort of like, why? And so how do you get there, beloveds? Because we're talking about things that may seem so surreal to so many, but there's a resonance there. We are sure that each one of us has resonance. How do you get there?
Yes.
Be gentle with yourself. Take a pause before you respond. Something happens and you're like, just take a moment with yourself. Yeah. Just take a moment. And from that space, respond. Don't react. Be gentle with yourself. And when you see those beautiful seeds of tender, sweet beauty, it produces the fruits of that nectar. It produces the fruits of beauty and a sublime nature that is effortless. And so you no longer have to row your boat upstream. You literally put the sail up and allow the wind just to sail you wherever you need to go.
That's right. And you know, your most sublime teacher is nature.
Yes.
If you look at nature, if you look at the waves, if you look at the ocean, through the mindscape of it all, the waves come in, they're always the same. They always do the same thing, right? They might be a bit different in how they come and crash and how big they are, but they always do the same thing. They roll in, they flow in, and then they come and they settle. And another one comes. And this is the nature of reality. It goes like this. And if you go outside and you take a blade of grass, or if you go and stand by a tree, what you're witnessing, or you look at a bird, you know, a child, the moment a child that's first seen a bird, okay, let's see if everybody who's watching can just take a moment. When was the very first time you ever saw a bird, right, flying in the air, majestic, incredible, just free as free can be? And you didn't know what that was because nobody ever said, that is a bird, that bird, right? The moment that child learns the word bird and makes that association, it is no longer that.
They never see it again.
They will never truly see that bird again.
Yeah.
For what?
Wow, that is, it's so profound, and it speaks to so much. You know, it really reminds me of, you know, very often I get asked the question, what is magic? You know, how do I define magic? And I always say, I'm like, it's indefinable, because the second I define it, you kill it, you lose it. You know, and it's the same thing. It's that magic of life. When you first see a bird, before you know the label, before you know what it is, it's that pure experience.
Magic comes from Maya.
Yeah.
Care to elaborate?
Magic comes from Maya, meaning when you see things like, because when you see through the illusion, you see them as they are, right? It's all the beautiful. So magic is the dewdrops in the morning, the morning sunrise, yeah. with that's on the rose petal. Magic is the rose itself.
That the sun then hits and creates the sparkle and creates the light and all of the spectrum of light that is in that one perfect little dewdrop.
Yeah, if you go even further, go to the Kemet tradition, magic is the word Heka, and then it became Hecate in the Greek, Roman Greek
and the
traditions.
Goddess of Hecate.
And what is it? Magic is in the air you breathe, it's in the sun you feel, it's the light you see, it's the reality you experience. You want to know what magic is? It's right in front of you. You are it. You are that play. You are that Maya. Yes. There's no, you know, upon the realization of Nirvana, if we go to that expression, that realization of Nirvana, that is the same as Samskara. Now I'm using Eastern terminology. Nirvana really, in its essence, it's that out-breath. It's that expression of bliss, that not clenching, not clinging to life. It's that total acceptance and freeness. And samskara is this cycle of life, birth, death cycle that continues to happen. All the karmas of the samskaras that are wounds that become wound around the DNA, and then the genetic construct that you then project into your life. All of those things. So when you get that nirvana is samskara, but they're just different perceptions of the same thing. You know, when you're and just to understand this from a very simple construct as well, when you're a child and you're watching a movie, you're so enthralled in the movie and you think you're a part of the movie, you're feeling these emotions of the movie, and then you're experiencing it as yourself inside of it. That's really what children do. They experience themselves one with this movie, and they get so emotionally entertained through that. And
they're just in awe, like, you know, if you watch a child, their eyes
they're
are
in
just
wonderment.
Like,
they're just fully absorbed.
You know?
They're fully absorbed.
Yeah.
And then
kind of like me right now.
Exactly. And then what happens is that as you mature through that process, you start seeing that no, it is a movie. No, it is a play. No, it is a dream. So you're not investing yourself into it. You're not emotionally being absorbed into it to the point where you get lost into the cycle of samskara.
But you can if you want to.
But you can, and that's okay as well. Like, there's no wrong and right answer here.
Right, we just want to make sure that that's really, really clear.
Yeah, you can play.
It's
you can
all
play
so beautiful.
Whether this is the thing, whether you think you're playing or you don't, or you're not playing, you're still playing. Like, truly, even if you've conditioned yourself to believe that, oh, my life is not play. I have to do serious. I have to pay bills, and I have to make things happen. If you're still coming from that construct, you're still playing with those notions of constructs in your mind. That's what you're playing with right now. You're still playing with that, even if you don't think you are. At another level of your dimension, if you look at every degree of your being, you're playing with yourself. And once you realize that, you can truly have freedom.
You're so entertained because, if you really understood from what beloved Sananda was saying about, once you realize that, you really have the freedom of the mindscape that is no longer holding you hostage, because that's really what the mind can do. It can hold you hostage through the Maya, that is the magic that you get to work with and play with, because magic is tangible as it is intangible. It is seen as it is unseen. It's also the ability to have power and command over the unseen realms and forces, but that's a whole other story, and that's a whole other that's a whole other show.
That's more fun.
That's magic. But when we're talking about the simplicity of everyone's experience, any single being on the entire planet can go outside and witness magic. Any single being. But this that we're talking about right now is a whole other level of self-realization. It's a whole other level of letting go of the mindscape and recognizing that you're just playing with yourself. That's all you're doing. And you can be entertained for lifetimes, after lifetimes, after lifetimes.
And when you, with all the beloveds watching,
which means we're playing with God. God is playing with God. The divine plays with the divine. That's all it knows how to do.
And right now, this will be a breath of fresh air for some, and some will be like, just tight and be like, no. But what about these rights? And what about CV? And what about this? And all of those things. And we get that. That's why we shared earlier, compassion, beloveds, compassion. Compassion is the importance. And most importantly, when you understand the psychology of the human conditioning, if you're in the West, you're in a privileged space. You're supremely privileged,
no matter what your life looks like.
No matter what, because you really have nothing to really worry about in those ways. You've got everything really at it. The society in these day and age is such a throwaway society. And what I mean by that is that you get something and then you get a brand new phone one year, then you throw it away the next year and you get an upgrade. You get one laptop and then you throw it away and get a new one, or you trade it in. Or you get some furniture, you trade it in, and it's just consistently trying to upgrade itself consistently. It's never really satisfied. And so what does the mind do in those scenarios when you've really got everything that you need? Anything that you really desire, and you can just get it because it's so easy in this day and age to get.
Creates even more drama because it's bored.
It's like the mind it just creates problems. It just creates problems for itself so it can fix them. So and even if you try to tell your minds, okay, minds, here, I've had enough. I want you to lock up shop, and there's no more. I don't want to create any problems anymore. I'm going to sleep now. I'm going to go to bed in the morning. I don't want anything to do with you. You go to sleep, you wake up, and the mind's going, good morning. All right, wake up. We've got lots of problems to solve in today, and let's get it all fixed because you need to do this and you need to do this. It's like, and that's what you need to get out of.
Yes.
You need to get out of those spaces that you've confined yourself in that believe that there's a problem to begin with, that needs a solution, that needs to be fixed. If you just accepted life as it was and as it is, if you accepted it as it truly is, all of a sudden you see solutions. You don't see problems. You're in this space and you're like, oh wow, okay, beautiful.
You don't even need solutions.
But life leads you to that solution.
It will lead you to
you're not. This is why I said you don't think of a solution.
Yes.
You find the solution because you're just led there.
Yes.
Solution finds you.
And just in sort of martial arts, if we speak about martial arts, that very strict, and that's like that mastering of a physical art, and whether that's there's many different lineages of that. But if we think about martial arts for one moment, the secret to martial arts is that not thinking that you're even fighting. That's the secret, because if you think you're fighting, you go into a bind.
Wow.
And so, you can't get out of it.
And so if you focus on, like Bruce Lee, if you focus on water, everything that he did is just water. Just in action, it's just water. No one could bind him, because it's just that flow. Because if you just, okay, my mind is fluid, I'm in fluidity,
yes.
Then you're not fighting, because what fights you resist, and then it fights you back. And so there's this resistance play. But if you're in, no matter what's fighting you, if you're water, you just go around it, or you go under it, or you go over it, or you dissolve it. And so be like water, be like air, be like the true nature of your being, which is super fluidity. Be that fluid self.
And we always return you right back to your heart.
Yeah.
This is what we always do. The heart doesn't seek a solution to a problem. The heart doesn't understand that. And so we always say, just energetically cut this that creates the problems. Cut your head up and drop down into the heart space and see life through here. How does the heart look through life? Last time we met together, beloved David, we did some sort of meditation where we talked about the eye of the heart, and how does that eye of the heart experience the life? How does it experience the world, right? What is the scope and scape of that eye of the heart? How does it feel? And when you do that, everything will just start to dissolve in a way that you never thought was even possible.
Yeah.
And so all of this that we've talked about today is only happening in the lower mind. And how do you stop the lower mind? By dropping lower into your vessel, by dropping into your lower belly and into your heart, making that connection all the way through to find this middle point here, which is where your power source is.
And that's an unconditional heart. You have to let go of the conditions around your heart, because a lot of people will say, oh, but I feel heartbreak or heart pain or whatever it is, but that's still conditioned. So we're talking about when you drop deeper and deeper, you refine and refine. And we're really expressing from a space of an unconditional heart, where you just are in unity. You are in that connection.
That's the true essence of all hearts.
And yeah, it's a beautiful play, David. It's a beautiful play.
Yes. Wow. So many profound gems in there. And what comes up for me now, and I feel like this will be a question on a lot of people's minds, and with what's not only with what's going on in the world, but just these are conversations that apply eternally. Is right now in the world, there's a lot of opposition. There's a lot of people, whether it's fighting against the cabal or the government or the this or the that, fighting with the reflection, basically. What I'd love to hear you speak on is what is, and you already have to a large degree, but what is liberation? And what is the path towards leading yourself towards liberation? And is there a distinction between liberation and freedom?
Well, we're about to have a retreat. We're going to Mount Shasta to discuss this exact and exemplify this very important understanding of liberation. So we can talk about that as well.
Yeah, and
perfect.
Liberation. If you try to use a Western word, would be freedom. Yeah, okay, freedom, liberation, but liberation from what? Freedom from what? These terms are so beautiful. The Eastern terminology that I hear of moksha and enlightenment and shunyata or mukti, jiva mukti, all these beautiful expressions of that one thing. What are you free from? What are you really free from? Well, what happens is that you're free from all these traps in the mind. You're free from the mind's game. You're free from the opposition of this dualistic perception. You're free from all these conditionings, all this heartache and pain that's experienced. You're free from that. You free it through your entire genealogy as well. You free it from your entire genetic expression. You free it from your entire soul expression. You free it from your entire nature. And so you become free from all the overlays, essentially. All the overlays and all the actions and all the projections that have been held in the causality of your being, all the causal effects, and so you're free from that. So that's why it's simply put, you're free from karma. Because what is karma? Karma is those actions that create those memories that then create teachings for you to learn from and evolve through. So you get to become, and that's the simple version. I mean, we can speak in for days of what it does to your body and your mind, and
genetics,
and all of that. We can speak into the esoteric nature of that. But at its quintessence, you're free from all that was not you, and all of those aspects you just allowed your mind to perceive itself as. So you're free from the mind.
You are, and just to bring it even a bit more practical, given your question, you are free from the focus of what it is that you're asking about. You are free from even having the lens by which to see that which you're asking about. And so it does not mean that it is not there. It does not mean that it is not present. It means that one's focus experience of life does not include that, because it is not a vibrational match.
Did our internet freeze?
No? We can hear you.
I think we got a bit of an internet freeze over here.
We can hear you, beloved.
We can hear you, darling. You must not be able to hear us. David Lioness.
We are back.
We're back. So, what you just shared was very profound and very subtle, and I really don't want this to go over people's heads. When you said you're free, I forget the exact words, you're free from focusing on the question you're asking about. I believe that's what you said. It's so simple and profound, because, for example, and just to speak to the people listening, what this makes me think of is, the other day, a friend of mine was asking me about a problem that he had. He's like, how does he fix this? How does he release this? And so he has this focus on a particular question. And so I love what you're saying in terms of how freedom is the freedom from the focus on that question at all, and
Exactly.
the experience of liberation. That beautiful, poetic, amazing.
It's freedom from the questioner, beloved. It's freedom from the questioner. There's no more questioner when you're there. There's no more the intellect, the part of you that has reason. You still can use those faculties, but there's no longer a questioner there anymore. It's like the ego hard drive just got short circuited, and there's no more link up. So there's no more question there. You experience, you're flowing. You know, you're flowing. And so what we do, we go around the world to beautiful places, and we take our students to these gorgeous sceneries to give them a
really
taste.
Magnificent places.
And this time it happens to be in Mount Shasta, where we give them a taste of what that experience is to be experienced like.
Tasting bliss.
To really immerse themselves in a container, in a holding container of just of beauty, with so many other like-minded, like-hearted beings that feel so deeply connected as family, soul tribe. And then to give them an experience that allows them to really return to their true nature. And then they get to integrate that back into their life. And then they get to take that and integrate that. And so that's really what we do. And we use as sacraments with doing that. We use sacraments, and a sacrament is a very, very significant and ancient technology that is old.
It predates what most people even know as real life.
Yeah, but what it is just an ancient technology that supports you to actually view yourself from that point of reference. So you can look at that conditioning, you can see the projections, and you can see beyond the veils. And beloved, you had an experience with us as we took you through a beautiful ceremony. So maybe you should share your personal experience.
Yes, and then we'll share what we remember as well.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I was actually just thinking of that. And also, just so you're aware, it's 3 minutes to the hour. So
thank you.
You're okay? Okay, cool. Yeah.
We're bending time.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm so happy I get to share this story. So I had an experience with you both where I didn't even really know what I was coming into. I just knew I had such a strong resonance with the two of you, and that's all I really needed. And all I knew, it was called this elixir ceremony, and I didn't know what it was, or I didn't know anything, and I didn't want to know anything because I love to dance with the unknown. And when I came to the ceremony, first of all, my words won't do it full justice over here, but what I loved was the whole journey of all of it. It wasn't just coming to an event and then you have a spiritual experience and that was it. The moment that you decide to come, my body started to prepare for it. My being started to prepare for it, and I did fasting and I cleansed my body. And my experience, once I arrived at your temple and we did the practices that we did, once I took the elixir, which was extremely tasty, by the way, it tasted like honey. Once we took the elixir, I remember I was a bit nervous because again, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what to expect and I didn't want to know. And I remember I took the elixir and there were probably about 10 other people over there. And it didn't take long for everyone to start to drop into their experience and, purging and whatever else. And for whatever reason, I wasn't experiencing much. And I remember I was just like, okay, maybe my body's just not going there. And at some point, you asked me if I wanted to take another dose, if that's in alignment with me. And so I felt into it and I was like, yes, let me do it again. And I did another dose. And this time a little bit more happened, a little bit more visuals and whatnot, but not so much. And then by the time my intuition guided me to ask for a third sacrament, a third elixir, I remember it was scary for me at this point, and I had to courageously just be like, okay, I'm gonna listen to my inner guidance, and I'm like, I'd like to do the third. And it was more pungent, as you put it. And what was magical for me about this experience was, at this point, everyone had already, by the time I was starting to have my experience, everyone had already fallen asleep. Everyone had already pretty much finished their experience. And synchronicity was orchestrating in such a way so that I had to be by myself to have this experience, because that's what was being called forth. And, and so at this point, you guys had gone wherever you had gone, and everyone is sleeping. And I started to have somewhat of an experience. Now it definitely, certain things started to kick in. And then when it died out, I remember I'm like, oh, that was it? That wasn't so bad. I'm like, all right, okay, cool. So I took off my blindfold and I went to turn and go to sleep. And as soon as I surrendered, as soon as I let go of looking for an experience, all of a sudden it was just boom. And it just came in, and it was just this incredibly intense experience that I can't really compare to anything else, where it just felt like I was being met with the inner workings of reality, and I just remember hearing this voice that I needed to ask for help. And that was part of my lesson, because I had some ego around asking for help. I didn't want to disturb people. I didn't want to bother people. And it felt very vulnerable for me to ask for help. And the more I resisted asking for help, the more intense the experience got. And so finally I was just like, I'm like, okay. And the person next to me, I remember I woke him up. I'm like, Uni, I need help. Uni. and he woke up, he helped me out. And to kind of summarize a little, because there's lots of detail in this story, but I remember I began to get up and walk through the floor of your temple. And it felt like I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Disney movie, The Lion King, but there was a scene where you see, okay, good. There's a scene where you see a young Simba growing up into older, more mature Simba. And that's very much what it felt like. It felt like I was going through this growth and this evolution within inside myself. And as this was all happening, at some point, I eventually get the message, wake up Shekinah and Sananda. And I was afraid, because I'm like, I don't want to disturb them. You know, they went to sleep. I'm the one who made this decision to go in this way. And, you know, the message was loud and clear. And sure enough, you know, I had to listen to the guidance. And so I found my way to the stairway that would lead up to your room. And I remember I looked up at that stairway, and it looked like a stairway to heaven. It looked like a very intense stairway, you know, when you're in that state, and every step was an initiation. Every step was a journey. And then I finally got up to where your door was, and I knew all I had to do was knock or open the door. And I was so scared, but I was just like, I made it this far. And I remember I opened the door and all I heard was Shekinah, like, is someone there? and I'm like, I need help. I need help. I really need help. And you let me know you were coming. And I remember I just curled up on the floor in the fetal position, knowing that you were coming, and you just came out with so much love. And the second you came, I just felt held. I felt safe. And I can't really put into words what happened next, because it was so internal of an experience. But what I can say is that I released something so deep in the bellows of my heart that could only have been released by receiving a certain quality of love that was able to meet me in that space, so that it could even be felt. And that was the ultimate gift that you gave me, was offering me this high quality love, so that I could really feel that, was that which I've been trying to release for so long, and finally release through this cry like I've never cried, and this liberation like I'd never experienced. And then, then magic happened, and eventually you led me back to my bed and just left me with more magic and love. And the experience wrapped up. And that was a very summarized version of my experience, because otherwise it would have taken me about 45 minutes. But that was my experience with the elixir. And honestly, it was magical to release that thing in my heart that I'd had for,
yes,
I mean, forever, for as long as I know, was such a gift. And more than the sacrament, more than the event, it was you, it was both of you. It was the love and the container that you held that allowed for that experience. And so I absolutely wholeheartedly highly recommend any experiences that you both offer, you know, be it at Mount Shasta or if it was on the planet Mars, I would still go. You know, so that was my experience.
Thank you so much, sweetheart. Yes, we remember being, you know, because we don't ever really go to sleep. We're always sort of aware in, you know, working on beloveds in different ways. When you came upstairs, we weren't expecting someone to actually come to the door, and so it's sort of like, is someone here, or are we hearing the energy coming from somewhere else? And so it was sort of like, and you were so precious. You wanted to actually crawl into bed with us.
Yes, I remember. I kept asking him, I'm like, I just want to lie in bed with you guys. I just want to lie in bed.
Crawl into bed with you. And we were like, oh, okay. So I took you and I put you on my lap. So from fetal position, I just sort of put you on my lap and I held you and I just rocked you and sung to you.
Yep.
And sung to you. And then we were healing this part of your heart that was needing not only release but resolution. And you know, that's our job, right? That's what we're here for, is to heal the wounding of the mother and the father energies on this planet, but also for the individuals who want to come and who want to be close, because every single person here has them, whether it's one side or the other. Everybody has one of those, and
Yes.
sometimes both. And so for you, you needed that divine mother love. You needed that energy to unravel and release in its softness for you, instead of in that way that's forceful. And when you were able to really surrender, that's when your journey began. And that is the metaphor for life.
Yeah, and this is exactly what we shared in the very beginning. Vulnerability. You know, when you're vulnerable, you're asking for help and really, you know, coming on your hands and knees and you're really just surrendering from that space.
And then we just want to pour out to you. Like,
yes.
oh my gosh, of course you can come be with us.
Holding you and just you purring like a kitten, buddy.
Oh yes, you were purring like a kitten.
I was crying and I was laughing because I could see what I looked like, and so I was a beautiful mess. And you know, and what I really want to yes,
in the morning.
Yes, you know, and I remember you asked me a beautiful question at one moment during the experience. You said, if you could be anything, what would you be? And instantly I was just like, magic. And I don't know what you did. I don't know what you did, because I was in my own, you know, in my own state, but I just experienced this outburst, this bliss of magic, and it was one of the most phenomenal experiences ever. And what I really want to speak to, though, what I really want people to hear, you know, beyond my experience, that I really took away from that, is one of the greatest gifts that I believe you both offer is really the quality of love that you offer. Because we, as you said, we all have certain wounds that can be so unconscious and have so much fear and density wrapped around it that we're not even aware of it, and we're not going to allow ourselves to feel it. But the love that you offer, the quality of love that you offer, creates this safe space that you didn't even know that you needed, so that these things can surface and finally be felt in a way that you feel safe, in a way that you can have liberation, and a way that you can finally have that freedom and peace that you've been looking for. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. And that's really what I want people to hear when it comes to why I absolutely recommend anything that Shekinah and Sananda offer.
Thank you, beloved. You know, your words are so beautiful, just nectar from your hearts. And truly, what can love not do? Love like that, what can it not do?
Everything.
You know, that's the love that we're here to just exemplify for everyone on the planet, that you too be that. And what beautiful world would we all live in together if everyone just chose that path, that just the path home to love. Because the truth is, whether you choose it now or whether you choose it later,
it's inevitable.
You're
going to return eventually.
We're just here reminding you
Yeah.
reminding you.
It could be lifetimes from now. You could be moved to a completely different earth by the time before you decide that you want it. But it is inevitable, and everybody will return back to it.
Yeah, and that love is why all of this, the magic of life, is even possible. Like just the sheer experience of having a physical vessel, having a live stream, having relationships with people and family and the world and nature, just that alone is magic. And that is what love births and breeds in its most beautiful, benevolence way. And that is what you all are. Whether you realize it or you don't, you are that, and that is you all the way through your journey.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here, for being, and just for this moment and this co-creation. You know, there's so many more questions and topics that, you know, that we all wanted to dive into, and we could always create more.
Yeah.
And so I just want to say thank you. And for everyone listening, if you want to check out Shekinah and Sananda, you can go to their website, which is www.twinray.com. And you can hear about their events and everything else that they offer. And I believe you also have an app as well, right? You have a
Yes, we have an app, we have some free programs, and
we just started a new YouTube channel, which literally is days old now, so that's exciting.
Yes.
Yeah. And we have some outlets. So yeah, just if you wanna connect, beautiful.
We're here.
Yes. Amazing. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. And once more, I just want to take a moment. If everyone listening, everyone tuning in, be it live or on the replay, could just take a moment to, if you feel inspired to offer your gratitude and your appreciation just energetically to the both of them, because it really is a gift that you're offering to the world. So I'd just like to take a moment and say thank you. Thank you for all that you are, all that you bring, and just for the magic of the love that you emanate on this planet. It is truly, truly appreciated. Thank you.
Love all, serve all.
Love all, serve all. Thank you very much, everybody, and we will talk more soon.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.